If you want to understand why some people seem to age with a lighter body, better digestion, steadier energy, and far less stubborn belly fat, you should not begin by looking at their gym routine. You should begin by looking at their breakfast. For decades, people in the West have been taught that fat loss is mostly about discipline. Eat less, move more, count everything, cut this, avoid that, push harder. And if the weight comes back, the blame usually falls on the person. But after years of studying metabolic health, digestion, and age-related weight gain, I can tell you this: your body is not just a calorie machine. Your body is a living biological system, and one of the most powerful systems controlling how much fat you store, how hungry you feel, how inflamed you become, and how well your metabolism works is not in your arms, your legs, or even your stomach. It is inside your gut. My name is Dr. Amanda Collins, and today I want to show you a traditional Japanese food that most people in America either do not know about, avoid because of its smell, or completely underestimate. But in Japan, this food has been part of the morning table for generations. And what makes it fascinating is not just that it is nutritious. Many foods are nutritious. What makes it different is that it may help change the environment inside your gut. The very environment that influences fat storage, appetite, inflammation, blood sugar, and metabolic health. That food is called natto. Natto is made from fermented soybeans. It has a sticky texture, a strong smell, and a flavor that can feel unusual the first time you try it. But those exact qualities are signs of the fermentation process that gives natto its unique biological power. Now, before you judge it by how it looks, I want you to understand why this matters so much. Many people over 50 or 60 tell themselves, "My metabolism is just slow now," or "This is what happens with age," or "My body simply stores fat more easily than it used to." And yes, aging does change the body. Hormones shift, muscle mass can decline, insulin sensitivity may worsen, digestion can slow. But age alone is not the full explanation. A major part of the problem is that the modern Western diet damages the internal ecosystem that helps regulate metabolism. Processed foods, added sugars, refined oils, low-fiber meals, repeated antibiotic exposure, and chronic stress can all reshape your gut bacteria in a way that favors inflammation, cravings, unstable blood sugar, and easier fat storage. That is why two people can eat the same number of calories and respond very differently. One person may burn through food efficiently. Another person may feel hungry all the time, store fat around the waist, and struggle with bloating, fatigue, and cravings. The difference is often not just willpower. The difference is the internal environment. Inside your digestive tract live trillions of microorganisms. Some support metabolic balance. Others, when they dominate, may push the body toward more inflammation, more hunger, and greater energy extraction from food. In simple terms, certain gut patterns may make your body better at holding on to fat. That is where natto becomes so interesting, because natto is not simply soybeans. Regular soybeans and fermented soybeans are not the same thing. Fermentation transforms the food. During fermentation, bacteria break down compounds in the soybean and create new beneficial substances. Natto contains Bacillus subtilis, a hardy probiotic organism, along with vitamin K2, fermented soy compounds, enzymes, and fiber-related benefits that may support the gut environment. So the question is not, can one food magically melt fat? That would be too simplistic. The better question is, can one food help improve the conditions that make fat storage more likely in the first place? That is where natto deserves attention, because when your gut environment improves, your hunger signals may become more stable, your digestion may become more efficient, your inflammatory load may decrease, your blood sugar response may improve. And when those things happen together, your body may stop acting like it is constantly under metabolic stress. This is why I do not want you to think of natto as a diet trick. Think of it as a signal a signal to your gut bacteria, a signal to your metabolism, a signal to your digestive system that says, begin rebuilding. And this is important because many people are trying to lose weight while ignoring the very system that controls how food is processed. They cut calories, but they do not rebuild the gut. They walk more, but they do not reduce inflammation. They remove carbohydrates, but they do not restore the bacteria that help regulate appetite. So they get results for a while, and then everything slows down. The hunger comes back, the cravings return, the waistline stops changing, and they assume they failed. But often the plan failed them. In this video, I am going to explain what natto is, why it has been connected with traditional Japanese eating patterns, how it may support gut bacteria, why it may influence fat storage, and how to use it in a realistic morning routine. I will also show you the common mistakes people make when trying natto, including one mistake that can destroy much of the benefit before it ever reaches your body. And before we continue, please remember, this video is for educational purposes only. It is not personal medical advice. If you take blood thinners, have a soy allergy, have a medical condition, or are under treatment, speak with your doctor before adding natto regularly to your diet, especially because natto is rich in vitamin K2. Now let's begin with the biggest misunderstanding about belly fat, because the fat you see in the mirror is not always the fat that matters most. Most people think weight gain begins on the plate, but many times it begins much deeper, in the gut, in the liver, in your inflammatory system, and in the way your body interprets every meal you eat. This is why the same advice fails so many people. Just eat less. Just avoid carbs. Just exercise more. That advice may work temporarily, but for many adults, especially after 50, it does not solve the deeper metabolic problem. Because if your gut bacteria are imbalanced, your body may keep sending hunger signals even after you have eaten. If your liver is overwhelmed, it may convert more incoming energy into stored fat. If your blood sugar rises and crashes, you may crave more food even when you promised yourself you would stop. And if inflammation is constantly present, your metabolism may become less responsive. This is where we need to talk about visceral fat. Visceral fat is not the soft fat you can pinch under the skin. It is deeper. It surrounds organs like the liver, pancreas, and intestines. And unlike surface fat, visceral fat is metabolically active. It releases inflammatory signals that can interfere with insulin sensitivity, blood vessel health, blood pressure, cholesterol balance, and long-term metabolic function. This is why waist measurement often matters more than the number on the scale. Someone may not look extremely overweight, but still carry too much visceral fat around the organs. And someone else may lose a few pounds without meaningfully improving their metabolic health. So when we talk about natto, we are not talking about a vanity food. We are talking about a food that may support the kind of internal environment associated with better metabolic function. Now, one of the reasons traditional Japanese diets are so interesting is that they often include fermented foods, sea vegetables, soups, fiber-rich foods, modest portions, and meals that support digestion rather than overwhelm it. Natto fits perfectly inside that pattern. It is fermented. It contains live bacterial activity. It is traditionally eaten in small portions. It is usually paired with rice, miso soup, vegetables, seaweed, or other simple foods. That combination is very different from the typical Western breakfast of refined cereal, sweetened coffee, pastries, processed meat, or bread with sugary spreads. One breakfast feeds the gut. The other often spikes blood sugar, lacks fiber, and gives your gut bacteria very little to work with. To understand this better, imagine your gut like a garden. If you feed that garden with fiber, fermented foods, and nutrients, beneficial organisms can grow. If you feed it with sugar, processed oils, and ultra-processed foods, the balance can shift in the wrong direction. And when the wrong organisms dominate, your body may become more efficient at extracting calories from food and less efficient at regulating hunger. This does not mean bacteria alone control your weight, but it does mean your gut bacteria are part of the weight control system. They influence appetite hormones. They produce compounds that affect inflammation. They communicate with the brain through the gut-brain axis. They interact with bile acids, blood sugar, and immune signaling. So when you change your gut, you may change the way your body responds to food. This is why natto is so powerful conceptually. It is not just another superfood being promoted because it sounds exotic. Its value comes from the fermentation process. Soybeans by themselves contain protein, minerals, and plant compounds, but they also contain substances that can make some nutrients harder to absorb. Fermentation changes this. The bacteria involved in natto break down parts of the soybean and make certain compounds more available to the body. That means natto is not just soybean with a different texture. It is a transformed food. And one of the most important organisms involved is Bacillus subtilis. This bacterium is unusually resilient. It can survive harsh conditions better than many delicate probiotics. That matters because a probiotic is only useful if it can reach the digestive tract in a meaningful way. Once there, natto may help support a healthier microbial balance. And when the gut bacteria begin shifting in a better direction, several things may happen over time. First, the body may produce more short-chain fatty acids. These are compounds created when beneficial bacteria ferment fibers and certain carbohydrates. One of the most important is butyrate. Butyrate helps nourish the cells lining the colon. It supports the intestinal barrier. It may reduce inflammatory signaling, and it plays a role in communicating fullness and metabolic balance. Second, a healthier gut barrier means fewer inflammatory compounds may cross into the bloodstream. This matters because chronic low-grade inflammation is strongly connected with insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. Third, your appetite may become easier to control, not because you are forcing yourself to suffer, but because the gut-brain communication becomes more stable. That is a completely different experience from dieting. Dieting often feels like war. You fight cravings, you fight hunger, you fight your own body. But when your gut environment improves, the goal is not to overpower your biology. The goal is to cooperate with it. This is why many people who focus only on calories miss the bigger picture. Calories still matter. Of course they do. But the body's response to calories depends on the system receiving them. A stressed, inflamed, imbalanced system handles food differently than a balanced, nourished, well-regulated one. And this is where natto may help. It provides fermented compounds, bacterial support, and nutrients that may contribute to rebuilding that internal system. But there is something else natto is known for: vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is involved in calcium regulation in the body, helping direct calcium toward bones and away from places where it does not belong. Natto is one of the richest dietary sources of a form of vitamin K2 called MK7. Now, that does not mean everyone should eat unlimited natto. Again, if you take blood thinners, especially medications like warfarin, you must speak with your healthcare provider first because vitamin K can interfere with these medications. But for many healthy adults, natto can be a fascinating addition to a metabolic supportive diet. The real secret is not eating it once. It is consistency. Gut changes do not happen overnight. You do not rebuild a damaged ecosystem with one meal. You rebuild it through repetition, day after day, breakfast after breakfast, signal after signal. To understand why natto is so different from a normal diet food, we need to stop asking, how many calories does it have? That is the wrong first question. A better question is, what instructions does this food give the body? Because food is not only fuel, food is information. Every meal sends signals. Some signals tell your body to store energy, raise inflammation, spike blood sugar, and keep craving more. Other signals support fullness, microbial balance, stable digestion, and better metabolic control. Natto appears to belong to that second category. And there are three major ways it may support the internal conditions that make fat loss easier. The first mechanism is gut microbiome support. Your gut bacteria are not passive passengers. They are active participants in metabolism. They help break down food. They create compounds. They influence inflammation. They communicate with your immune system and brain. When your gut is dominated by bacteria that thrive on processed food and low-fiber diets, your hunger and metabolism may become harder to regulate. But when you introduce fermented foods like natto consistently, you may help create a more favorable environment for beneficial bacteria. This matters because a healthier gut environment can support better production of short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate. Butyrate is especially important because it helps nourish the intestinal lining. Think of your intestinal lining like a protective wall. When that wall is strong, your body can better control what enters the bloodstream. When that wall becomes irritated or weakened, inflammatory compounds can leak through more easily, creating immune activation and metabolic stress. This is one of the hidden reasons some people feel tired, bloated, hungry, and inflamed, even when they are trying to eat less. They are reducing food quantity, but they are not repairing the gut environment. Natto helps approach the problem differently. Instead of simply subtracting food, it adds a biological signal. The second mechanism involves the liver. Your liver plays a major role in fat metabolism. It processes nutrients, regulates blood sugar, produces bile, manages cholesterol, and helps determine how fats are packaged, transported, or burned. When someone eats too much refined carbohydrate, sugar, alcohol, or ultra-processed food, over time, the liver may begin storing more fat. This can contribute to fatty liver, elevated triglycerides, insulin resistance, and abdominal weight gain. Now, no single food can undo years of metabolic stress by itself, but certain foods can support healthier liver function when they are part of a better dietary pattern. Natto may help because fermented soy compounds and gut-related improvements can influence how the body handles fats and inflammation. The goal is not to force the liver. The goal is to reduce the burden on it and support the biological pathways that help the body use fat more efficiently. The third mechanism is appetite regulation. This is the one many people feel first, although it may take weeks. When your gut bacteria improve, the signals traveling from the gut to the brain may also improve. This is important because hunger is not just emptiness in the stomach. Hunger is hormonal. It involves ghrelin, leptin, insulin, peptide, YY, GLP-1, blood sugar changes, stress hormones, sleep quality, and gut bacteria. That is why people can feel hungry even after eating. It is also why some people can eat a balanced traditional meal and feel satisfied for hours. Natto may support fullness indirectly by helping nourish the gut bacteria that produce satiety-related compounds. This is very different from appetite suppression through stimulants or extreme dieting. You are not trying to silence your body. You are trying to help your body send clearer signals. And when the body sends clearer signals, eating less can happen naturally. Not because you are suffering, but because you actually feel satisfied. This is why I often tell people, the best nutrition strategy is not the one that requires the most punishment. It is the one your biology can sustain. Now let's talk about how to actually eat natto. The traditional serving is small, usually around 40 to 50 grams. That is about one small pack. You do not need a large bowl. In fact, starting small is better, especially if you are not used to fermented foods. A simple way to begin is with one small serving at breakfast, 3 to 5 times per week, and then gradually move toward daily use if your body tolerates it well. Traditionally, natto is stirred until it becomes sticky and stringy. Then it is mixed with a small amount of soy sauce or tamari and sometimes Japanese mustard. You can eat it over warm rice with chopped green onion or alongside miso soup. But there is one mistake to avoid. Do not expose probiotic-rich foods to very high heat. If you cook natto aggressively, you may reduce some of the living bacterial benefits. Warm rice is fine, but frying natto at high heat or boiling it can reduce what makes it special. Another mistake is expecting it to taste like Western breakfast food. It will not. Natto has a strong personality. The texture is sticky. The aroma is intense. The flavor is earthy and fermented. For some people, it takes several tries. So if the first bite surprises you, that does not mean you failed. Try pairing it with rice, mustard, scallions, or even a small amount of avocado or egg if that helps you adapt. The goal is not perfection. The goal is consistency. Now, what about supplements? Many people hear about nattokinase and immediately want the capsule instead of the food. I understand why. Capsules are easy. They have no smell, no texture, no adjustment period. But nattokinase is only one isolated component. Real natto gives you a broader package. Fermented soybean nutrients, bacterial activity, fiber-related benefits, vitamin K2, enzymes, and the food matrix itself. A supplement may have a place for certain people under professional guidance, but it is not the same thing as eating the traditional fermented food. This is a key principle in nutrition. The body often responds differently to whole foods than to isolated compounds. A food is a complex biological system. A capsule is usually one extracted piece. That does not make capsules useless, but it does mean they should not automatically replace the food. Now, if you are thinking, how long before I notice anything? Here's the realistic answer. Give it at least 4 to 8 weeks. Gut changes take time. You may notice digestion changes sooner. You may feel fuller. You may notice less bloating. But deeper metabolic changes require consistency. Do not measure progress only by the scale. Measure your waist. Track digestion. Track cravings. Track energy after meals. Track whether you feel satisfied longer after breakfast. Because sometimes the most important improvements happen before the scale reflects them. Now that you understand why natto matters, let's make it practical. Because information only helps if you can turn it into a routine. The goal is not to copy a Japanese diet perfectly. The goal is to borrow the principles that make it powerful. Fermented foods, small portions, gut support, protein, minerals, fiber, and metabolic steadiness. Here's a simple morning protocol. Start with one small pack of natto, around 40 to 50 grams. Stir it well until the texture becomes stringy and glossy. That sticky texture may feel strange at first, but it is part of what makes natto unique. Add a small amount of soy sauce or tamari. Add Japanese mustard if you like the flavor. Then serve it over a small bowl of warm rice. Not boiling hot, warm. You can add chopped green onions, sesame seeds, seaweed flakes, or a soft egg if it fits your diet. Next, pair it with miso soup. But here is the important part. Do not boil the miso. If you are using unpasteurized miso, dissolve it in warm water after the heat is turned off. High heat can reduce the living cultures. Then add a simple side, such as seaweed salad, cucumber, spinach, mushrooms, or steamed vegetables. This gives you a meal that is light but satisfying. You get fermented food from natto, you get warmth and minerals from miso soup, you get fiber and plant compounds from vegetables or seaweed, you get steady energy from rice, and you get a breakfast that supports the gut instead of attacking it with sugar and processed foods first thing in the morning. Now, let me be clear. This does not mean white rice magically causes weight loss. It means that in a balanced meal, with fermented foods, protein, fiber, and portion control, rice can fit into a healthy pattern for many people. The problem in the West is rarely one food alone. The problem is the pattern. Sugary coffee, pastries, processed meats, low fiber, constant snacking, and late-night eating create a very different metabolic environment. So when you add natto, do not add it to a breakfast that is already full of processed foods and expect miracles. That is the first major mistake. Natto is powerful, but it is not magic. It works best when the rest of the meal supports the same goal. The second mistake is inconsistency. Eating natto once and asking why your belly fat did not disappear is like going to the gym once and asking why your muscles did not grow. Your gut bacteria respond to repeated signals. If you want a change in your internal environment, you need to be consistent. Try it for 4 weeks minimum. 8 weeks is better. The third mistake is overheating it. Again, natto should not be cooked at high temperatures if your goal is to preserve its probiotic qualities. Eat it fresh, thawed, or gently warmed by the rice underneath it. The fourth mistake is relying only on the scale. This is extremely important. When visceral fat begins to change, the scale may not immediately show it. Your waist may change first. Your digestion may improve first. Your cravings may calm down first. Your blood sugar response may become steadier first. So use more than one measurement. Once per week, measure your waist at the level of the belly button. Notice how your clothes fit. Notice your energy after breakfast. Notice whether you feel hungry again within 1 hour or whether you stay satisfied. The fifth mistake is ignoring medical safety. Natto is rich in vitamin K2. For most people, that can be a benefit. But for people taking blood-thinning medications such as warfarin, vitamin K intake must be managed carefully. Do not add natto daily without speaking to your physician if you are on these medications. Also, avoid natto if you have a soy allergy, if you have a serious medical condition, digestive disorder, or are undergoing treatment. Ask your healthcare provider before making significant dietary changes. Now, let's talk about the smell and texture, because this is where many people quit. Natto does not behave like yogurt. It does not taste like oatmeal. It does not feel like eggs. It is sticky, stringy, fermented, and strong. But many of the most beneficial traditional foods require a little adaptation. Think about sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, blue cheese, miso, fermented fish sauces. These foods are not always gentle at first, but cultures around the world kept them for centuries because they did something valuable. Natto is the same. If you are new to it, start with a smaller amount. Use half a pack. Mix it with rice. Add scallions. Use mustard. Give yourself time. The goal is not to fall in love with it on day one. The goal is to give your body a chance to respond. Now, there is a deeper lesson here. Many people believe their metabolism is broken. They believe weight gain after 50 is inevitable. They believe belly fat is simply part of aging. But your body is more adaptable than you think. Your metabolism is not just controlled by age. It is influenced by sleep, muscle mass, stress, hormones, movement, inflammation, blood sugar, liver function, and gut bacteria. And the gut bacteria can change. That is the hopeful part. You are not stuck with the internal environment you have today. You can feed a different one. You can build a different one. And sometimes the first step is not a dramatic detox, a punishing diet, or an expensive supplement. Sometimes it is a small traditional food eaten consistently at breakfast, a food that has been sitting quietly in Japanese kitchens for generations, a food many people avoid because it looks strange, a food that may help support the very system most diets ignore. Natto will not replace medical care. It will not cancel the need for movement, sleep, protein, fiber, and balanced meals. But it can become one powerful part of a smarter metabolic strategy. So here is your simple challenge. For the next 4 weeks, try adding a small serving of natto to breakfast several times per week. Keep the rest of your breakfast simple. Avoid adding it to a meal full of sugar and processed foods. Measure your waist once per week. Pay attention to digestion, cravings, fullness, and energy, and see what your body tells you. Not after one day, not after one serving, but after repeated signals. Because real change is rarely loud at the beginning. It begins quietly, in the gut, in the liver, in the bacteria you feed every morning, in the signals your body receives before the day even starts. If this video helped you, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and share it with someone who is struggling with stubborn belly fat, digestion problems, or constant cravings. And leave a comment below with the word natto if you want me to make a follow-up video showing simple ways to eat it without being overwhelmed by the taste. I'm Dr. Amanda Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.